It's weird. People seem to love the Justice League and also not give a crap about the Justice League.
If the views on ComicPop are an indication, that's very true. Where it's like they only watch the ones where they're like, I heard of that. Grant Morrison said that one's important. Let's watch that episode.
No, I assume it's like they love the idea of the team up, and they're glad it's happening.
Right, over there.
But I just I don't want to.
I don't care to read about it.
That's Marvel's Fantastic Four.
Oh, that's so. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. They're all together.
Yeah.
And they're doing things. That's so great.
Good for
I'm
them.
just gonna read Batman though.
Yeah, big time. And I'll also scream and yell and holler and freak out if they cancel Justice League.
There might also be a nostalgia for people who watched the cartoons and like the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited because it's like they were great.
That cartoon is what everyone's trying to chase and has damned DC from ever doing anything other than the cartoon.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that they should follow that, but I figure like for fans, they're
they
I love the idea of that. Like, look at them all together. They're hanging out. I watch like a 25-minute thing and then I'm done. It's like, but I'm not gonna read.
How dare I spend 25 minutes or more reading a comic book? Yeah. Reading? No.
And I get that. Like I am that same mind where I'm just like, I love the idea of the Justice League. I do not read Justice League unless it's magical Justice League.
Right.
It's a bunch of characters. What is it? 6 characters, 7 characters?
7 characters, yeah.
So like at most, you're gonna be a big fan of like 2 of those characters, right? Most of the time. So then it's like, well, like 2/3 of the book is stuff I don't really care about.
Right.
So like it's gonna be hard for you to be like a huge fan of it.
Yeah.
As opposed to like being a fan of like one book.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's so rare for them to also like co-opt another character's world. Like it's not like, man, I hate Justice League because I know at some point they're going to have to do a Flash-centric arc, and so they're going to have to deal with like the Rogues and his world.
Right. And
Rarely does that happen anymore. Now, more or less, it's like, well, they have to deal with Darkseid. They have to deal with like the nth level threat, the big one, as opposed to being like, no, how about like one day Flash calls the League and he goes, I have an entire group of villains called the Rogues, and they are driving me nuts. And I think that even though I'm the fastest man alive, I still can't beat all of them. How about we 7 just go to Central City and kick their ass? You know what I mean? How about like Batman's like, Arkham Asylum just had a hole blown in it.
Right.
How about Superman and Wonder Woman show up and stop it from getting worse? Now Batman would obviously never do that, and that's great plot armor to keep it from ever spilling out into other people's books.
In theory, it should be too easy to do, right? I think that's maybe the problem with the Justice League is they're too strong.
Yeah, that's why I think there's a lot of reference for the DeMatteis Giffen era.
Well, I feel like this is a greater conversation here because I was thinking about the fact that I'm like, the X-Men were really embraced, but the X-Men came about as a team. Like, here's the team.
Yes.
Get to know them.
Absolutely.
Right.
And the Justice League is almost more like a crossover stunt within Intercompany, where it's just hey, those characters that you are aware of and the ones that you really like, well, they're going to get together and they're going to solve some problems.
Yeah. Yeah, and they have to get together to fight Starro.
Right, and that's fun for a little bit. You could say the same thing about the Avengers, though, too.
Yeah, but yes, that's true. I was going to say, there's no one who was invented for the Avengers.
No, and so I was going to say, like, it's a similar situation, and you do find a lot of people being like, I'm aware of the Avengers.
Yeah.
But I think also with the Avengers, there isn't as, like, there's so much variety in the team of the Avengers in general.
Yeah.
There's, like, not... I guess there is one team that you do think of now thanks to movies.
Yeah, now.
Yeah. No, the reality is, the reason why...
That's not the one I came in on, though. So, like, I always think of a different team up. And I'm like, well, that makes sense for them to team up because they're not all, like, godlike characters, and a lot of the folk on the Justice League are.
Yeah, now. Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, what you were going to say.
The fact that the Avengers seemingly are more palatable, I think, to readers because at Marvel, we were like, here's the Fantastic Four. Here's the Avengers. Like, here are teams we've already established. We have a continuity of team-ups. The Justice League are the first ones. The Fantastic Four exist because of the Justice League.
Oh.
But the Justice League is made up of characters who all came from independent or different publishers that were all absorbed and then bought out and then put under one banner.
Yeah.
So there is no, like, true shared history until the one that they create themselves.
I have not read a lot of Justice League, so I would just assume that a problem that people have is that, like, it's just too unbelievable.
Yes.
That, like, they would struggle enough to warrant the number of stories that there are.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at least they always have to have external forces. Like, it's always Brainiac, Starro, Darkseid, some kind of war in the stars.
Yeah, some cosmic level.
Because if the Justice League ever really got their druthers, it would be Kingdom Come, they'd take the hell over.
Right.
Oh, well, yeah. No, that's true. I think it's also that, these are all a lot of like top tier characters.
Yeah.
Right? So even if Superman doesn't sell as well as Batman, or none of them sell as well as Batman, they all have a large fandom at this point.
Yes.
Like, like the reason I was like, oh, Justice League Dark was it's like I know some of these characters, but maybe not all of them.
Yeah.
So like I have taken an opportunity to read characters who aren't in a book right now.
Yeah.
And I get to know them. And I'm like, oh, if I want to go back, I can learn more about them. As opposed to like, or I could just read one of their, just one book of
And that was always every like old fan, like back when comics were like a couple of pennies. Like they would say, well, why would I read Superman or Batman or Wonder Woman when I could get all of them and more for the same price? And I think some people still have that same approach.
Sure.
But I also think there's also something felonious about like the idea of the Justice League being like, why shouldn't it be everyone? When the economic driving force behind, we got to get the biggest characters into this one book, because you theoretically then get the biggest audiences to read it. Like, well, obviously, if there are Flash, Batman, Superman, and Green Lantern fans, then all those fans would also read Justice League, and they'd be combined with the Justice League fans, and there'd be this massive, unstoppable book.
Right.
And yet it's always in the bottom 20.
Yeah, and it's hard to tell whether or not, you can go back and try to look at the figures between like the different teams. Like, does a team of characters who maybe aren't A-listers or have their own book right now
somehow sell better?
Do they sell better? But it's hard to judge that because it's not apples to apples, because it's not the same writing team and artist team every time.
An approach.
So
you can't say the Fantastic Four and the Justice League are one and the same, because like the Fantastic Four are explorers, they're all
I
just
mean like even Justice League team ups when like there have been other members on the Justice League who aren't
Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman.
Right.
Yeah, and so does that better? It's hard to tell because maybe the creative team was better.
It's true.
So it's impossible to tell. It's just funny because like we cover these books and I always have a good time with them, but I'm never like, it's never the first thing I reach for.
No, Justice League is rarely, I think, the one everyone always reaches for.
And again, this is just because I'm not a Justice League reader. It just seems that it makes more sense to have these sort of moments where it's like the League had to come together. Like there's like a lot of weight to that.
Yeah.
Where it's like there is something that has occurred in which the League has to come together.
Yeah, except honestly, that's the Avengers. The Avengers,
I guess that
in
is
their
that.
lines, there came a day unlike any other.
Yeah,
like,
I guess that's
they
true.
had to get together. The Justice League have meetings every month.
Yeah, I guess the Justice League in their name indicates that they're like, no, we are
an organization that has like a 401k.
Yeah, and we're here to like ensure that like law is upheld throughout the world.
Yeah.
Which is like really just a couple steps away from Kingdom Come.
Right, it is. And if they were actually doing it, the world would be
completely fine.
Yeah,
like,
and you
or
wouldn't
a
have a need for
totalitarian
any of the
state,
books.
but either way.
Yeah, it's just like an inherent contradiction in the concept. It
Yeah.
just doesn't, it's like, how can this exist? Either they have to suck really bad at it.
Which is why the Giffen DeMatteis, I think, era worked so well.
Right,
it's
right.
Like, how is Booster Gold going to save the world?
Right.
And
it's
by
going
the
to be
way,
hard.
Not to offend Booster Gold fans.
Because they exist.
They do exist, and they're very vocal.
You know what would be a good idea for just all Justice League books?
Yeah.
Or like a series of Justice League? Somebody said something earlier that got me thinking this way. I think it was you. What if they're all Elseworlds, and they're all just like, what if Flash wanted to clean up
like Gotham.
Yeah. Or his city. Because all the rogues got together and he's like, you know what, I need the whole Justice League. And then it's like, well, then that would be done.
Right.
And you wouldn't be able to like have a Flash book anymore.
Exactly.
But that would be okay if it was Elseworlds. Like, this is the universe where Flash
where they can't
got everyone
sell
together.
Flash books. Yeah.
You know.
Or like, what if they were going to cancel it? Because, they do cancel books periodically. Green Lantern, Flash, Wonder Woman. So it's like, all right, well then have the Justice League show up at the end of their issue in the last book and be like, there, we solved all your problems.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't
maybe
need
one
that
day
book
we'll go
to
to
continue.
Gotham and deal with that.
Yeah, and then, maybe like when that book starts again in 4 or 5 years, it'll be like, oh yeah, something happened to undo.
And the League
Justice
was busy
didn't
or
fix the
didn't do
problem.
anything.
Or they had disbanded because they were fighting and
right.
whatever.
No, but I think, an Elseworlds concept certainly fits the Justice League better, because then also there can be stakes and people can die and they can lose or fail, and it doesn't have catastrophic consequences, or at least it does, but in their own continuity where I don't actually care about what happens to them.
Right.
I think the other thing is just being like, maybe the best way to serve the Justice League is for them to be lame. Like, it has to be a team of like, look, it's Metamorpho and Red Hood.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
And
like
Blue Beetle, and let's see them try and stop Starro.
And I guess, what's funny is then like people will be like, well, I'm not going to read that. And it's like, are you reading it anyway?
Right, but you weren't anyway, and maybe someone else might actually enjoy it.
I don't know. think Justice League is like a weird sort of like catch-22.
It is. It straight up is.
But it has to exist.
Yeah.
Well, that's really the thing. Like, well, we got to do it.
I don't think
Here,
they think
Chip,
that
like,
anymore.
come up with something.